So, what made you kind of like want to start like martial arts and like MMA overall?
Well, I always really liked fighting. I always really liked the sport, the artistry, the discipline, as far
Yeah,
as being able to perform with your body, being able to move your body, being able to do these really wonderful things with your body. I really like dancers, I really like other athletes. I really like watching these high performance athletes do what is it that they love to do. I particularly liked the fact that my body and my training is geared towards potentially incapacitating an opponent. I mean, that's what martial arts is. That's what it's been from the beginning of time. It's something so innate in us, the will, the
yeah,
desire to fight, and then so much so that many cultures throughout the world have dedicated a lot of themselves to finding the best system to fight. Fighting is an instinct, and and it's so innate in us that we have developed it into systems, into disciplines that focus on a particular aspect of the engagement. Some people have developed it so much so into the grappling, into the striking, and even subgenres of the grappling, sometimes into judo, sometimes into jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and the striking, boxing, taekwondo, focusing on punches, focusing on kicks, focusing on joint locks, focusing on throws. So each aspect of the combat has just combined together, and I always wanted to be a well-rounded fighter. So I did my best to go to many seminars, train as many other martial arts as I could. And once I acquired as much knowledge as I thought I had, I needed to know if it was practical. How do I know
yeah,
it works? How do I know what I've been learning and spending my years doing is efficient? Well,
yeah.
competing, competing and fighting other practitioners who are trying to achieve the same thing, being a well-rounded fighter. And so that's what got me into MMA. I wanted to prove myself with other people who also wanted to prove themselves.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, what martial art did you start off with?
I started out with Taekwondo
Oh,
when I
really? No
was,
way.
yeah, I was six. I did it for like a month and a half and I was injured, not through the sport. I got injured outside of it doing
Okay.
some kid stuff. And then I didn't start again until I was 12. And ever since 12, I have not quit martial arts since 12.
Okay. You know what's funny? I actually started off with Taekwondo myself.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh? You get the
Yeah,
pads and you get the gi. It's
yeah,
nice.
yeah. Do you think like you're training from like Taekwondo? Do you think it like gave you an edge over other people that maybe they didn't come from like a Taekwondo background?
Well, every martial arts at this level has a background in some other discipline,
Yeah,
wrestling, taekwondo, boxing. I think that what gives everybody the edge at this highest level is the proficiency in which they're able to implement their specialty with
yeah,
everything else, right? So I'm a specialty in kicks. It just comes with that's what I did for a long time is kicking. But in order for me to be an efficient fighter in the MMA realm, I had to make sure I knew how to defend takedowns. I had to make sure I knew how to take people down, and I had to
yeah.
make sure I knew enough boxing to the point that
Mm,
if I was in boxing range, I wouldn't just not know what to do. So
yeah,
I keep my specialty, my kicks, my range distance, my fight IQ when it comes to that from Taekwondo. I keep that. And then I implement the other things that I need to make sure that my Taekwondo, that my kicks remain dangerous. And making sure that I implement my jiu-jitsu, my boxing, my wrestling, so that I can emphasize what I'm good at and make sure that what I'm not good at is covered by
yeah.
constant drilling in the other parts.
Okay, I like that. So, I'm trying to remember. Do you have I guess like obviously since you've now made it to the UFC, would do you have any advice for any upcoming fighters that might have the same aspiration?
Any advice? I would say just always make sure that you find inspiration. The hardest part about continuing the sport is that there's a lot of things that are against you from the beginning. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, It's because the sport doesn't pay well at the beginning. I mean, you look at all the sports, you look at football, you look at baseball, you look at basketball, you get to do that and you get to go to college and you get your college paid for. And if you want to
Yeah,
stick with the sport, cool. If you don't want to stick with the sport, you get a college degree and you get a good job. Cool. If you want to stick with the sport, you get drafted and you're making good money immediately.
yeah,
That's not the case with martial arts. That's not the case with MMA. They don't have those programs leading up to, a big league. You literally have to just fight your way up. That's really metaphorically and literally, you have to work a 9 to 5 because no college is really going to sponsor you. That's not doesn't exist. And then you
yeah,
have to train. And then it's up to you and yourself alone to decide if you just want to keep doing it. Because even when you hit pro, you're fighting for $200 a show, but you're training. If you're taking it seriously, you're training as much as it would cost you to work a full-time job. So
yeah.
that's money you're not making because you're spending it training. And on top of that, you have to get a job and try and work to make money. So you basically have two full-time jobs, one which doesn't pay you anything. And that's the hard part. So any advice I would say, look, it's worth it. If it's something you love and if it's something that you're really passionate about, that shouldn't stop you. That wouldn't care. You wouldn't care being broke all the time if you're constantly pursuing your passion. Once you have a family, it's a little different because other people depend on you. But if you don't have a family, just give it everything you got. You have nothing to lose. Worst case scenario, you get really good at martial arts and you become an amazing coach. That's worst case scenario, is you become a master and you don't make it to the big leagues, but you're really good at it.
Yeah. I actually like that advice. That's some solid advice right there. So, do you do you I'm trying to remember. So, obviously, you said you were passionate about martial arts and how it's important to stay passionate about martial arts. But like, is there what kind of made you be passionate about martial arts?
What made me passionate about martial arts is that it requires more than just your body. It requires your mind. It requires your self-discipline. You can have amazing technique. You can be born gifted and just be
Yeah,
really good at it, right? But if you train one day and you don't take the discipline and dedication to make sure you get better, the next day you may be tired, you may be sore, and you may start losing, and you may start, declining on your performance. What made me passionate about martial arts is the dedication you have to give to yourself. You have to take care of your body. You cannot perform this sport. Really, you can't perform any sport if you don't take it and yourself seriously. If you don't treat it and yourself with respect. It's just a good way to make sure that you constantly stay on top of your game and not just physically, but outside of life, really. I outside of the gym, I do what I love. And I can't go outside and eat terrible, just break my diet, or go to bed late and stay up late because that means that the next day I'm going to perform really bad. And if I truly do take what I do seriously, I don't want to perform bad. So I'm going to do everything I can outside of the gym to make sure that when I come back, I'm ready to go. And what made me passionate about martial arts is probably what makes other athletes passionate about their sports is the fact that it makes you respect yourself so that you can apply your best to what you love.
obviously, you said there's a lot of sacrifice and discipline in this. So, what would you say? I guess like your like daily routine kind of is.
My sacrifice?
Well, like more like your daily routine. What is it more like?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I wake up, I eat breakfast, I train, and I train for about 3 to 4 hours. I teach some classes, then I take a little break, and then I do it again in the evening. Same thing, train and teach classes. And I pretty much do this Monday through Saturday, Monday through Friday. And on the weekends, I dedicate it to teaching and, just myself sparring, my own pursuit of certain techniques, my own time in which I get to explore things I want to work on.
Now, obviously, I think you also had like an amateur career at one point, right?
Oh yeah, of course, everyone has to have
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. So like from your amateur career, what made you kind of like want to go pro? After what point were you like, okay, now I want to go pro?
Well, it was just the next step up. I was actually on a losing streak on my amateur career, and I realized, I can't throw elbows and I can't throw reinforced knees to the head, and there's just a lot of things hindering me back. And I think that if I had these tools, I would win. And the only way to have those tools was to go pro, where elbows are allowed and reinforced knees to the head are allowed. And I thought, okay, cool, then let's go pro. And it was a little bit of a risky jump because I was on a losing streak. But I said, no, I'm going to be unleashed. I'm going to be able to do whatever I need to do. And sure enough, I was able to reap. I was able to heel hook. I was able to elbow. I was able to knee. And the winning streak began to happen.
It's actually kind of interesting how you felt like you were restricted from these rules, and then you obviously ended up doing even better because now as a pro, like those restrictions don't exist.
Correct.
Yeah. So obviously you said there were some restrictions in terms of like knees and elbows, and obviously like would you say there was like it was like a big hindrance to your game, like just
Well,
because
yeah,
of that?
yeah, because I think it's a hindrance to any game, really.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I would get stuck about was whenever you start into the engagement and you
yeah,
want to throw something and then you hesitate because it's an illegal thing to throw. And that
yeah,
split second hesitation is enough to turn the fight around.
yeah. No, that makes sense. So do you ever plan on maybe like moving up to bantamweight even
No, I think I like 125. Yeah,
in 25?
135. It's all right. We make the cut easy. It's
Okay,
nice. We're able to perform, and we don't really, have anything pressuring us to go to 135.
okay, that's good to hear. Now, one thing you're mentioning about like how you shouldn't let like the pressure get to you, right? But do you sometimes feel like when you're like training for martial arts, maybe you because you have an upcoming fight, you feel like that pressure is somewhat there?
Oh, the pressure is always there. Yeah, the pressure is always there. Even outside of fight camp, even I have to pressure myself into getting better. you know and I just have to remember that the pressure doesn't have to be pressure coming from above, but it can be pressure coming from below, propelling you, impulsing you, thrusting you into higher levels. That's also pressure, and I'd rather have the pressure thrusting me than pushing me down. I'd rather channel the pressure in that direction.
That makes sense. So how do you handle that pressure?
By constantly finding ways to remain inspired. It doesn't matter how much pressure you have. It could be a little, it could be a lot. But if you're not inspired to work with that pressure or through that pressure, then it's very difficult to deal with the pressure. You
Yeah,
almost cave to it. And the last thing we can do at this moment is cave to the pressure. And whatever it is that allows you to live under pressure is inspiration towards something bigger than yourself, inspiration towards doing something amazing, something wonderful, inspiration that allows you to look outside of yourself and say, this is beautiful. How can I contribute beauty to this world? And it just so happens that what I do inspires others. And I cannot do what I do if I myself am not inspired. So how do I deal with pressure? I constantly look at everything that's around me that requires talent. I go see other sporting events. I go see other fights. I go to museums. I go to concerts. I spend time with other talented musicians or other talented fighters or other talented athletes. And I look at them and I said, wow, they've spent a lot of their lives pursuing this particular thing that they love. And watching them do it is inspiring. And then I realized, oh, but I'm one of them. Why haven't I been doing this? It's like, well, you can, and I can start tomorrow. So let's go back to training tomorrow, now inspired again, and give the best that I can and get better.
Actually, I actually really like that mindset, honestly. That's a really good mindset to have, honestly.
Thank you.